welcome to Seniorities for this October date that we're taping today. And we thought we would feature or begin to feature our instructors for various activities and programs at the Senior Center. So first up for us today is Bob Jackman. Welcome, Bob.
How do you do, Linda?
Some or many of you may recognize him. He has been providing a variety of local Scituate history courses to a steady stream of participants for well over 5 years, I think, since before I came on board. He single-handedly sort of constitutes our lifelong learning program at the center at this time, but really has done it more than adequately. Continually conceives of new topics to offer to a steady stream, as I said, of followers. So we're grateful for that. And I want to say, I guess, not only does he offers so much himself through the courses that he teaches, but he gives the people who participate an opportunity really to contribute themselves and to add their own histories and experiences and stories. And it really is a two-way engagement, sort of. It's really been wonderful to watch. So we're grateful for Bob. I hope you get as much out of it as I know they do. But
well, sometimes it actually does turn into something of a seminar rather than just a PowerPoint presentation, because people like Anthony Antonello and Sandy Higgins, they've been a part of this community for so long, and they've got just great stories to share with everybody. So it's fun running a seminar version at times.
Sure.
You know?
well, I know JD hasn't had the pleasure of hearing some of the topics that you have offered. So why don't you maybe go over some of the things that you have provided for local history? What were some of the topics?
Well, we've done a very wide array. We started off with maps. Maps are a tremendous wealth of information. They're just rich with the location of salt works and the earlier location of roads, things of that sort. I do like to stay with primary sources, so things like diaries. There was a great diary, one of the best Revolutionary War diaries. Was written by a guy named Israel Litchfield, here in Scituate. And
it's an old town name.
Oh yes. But like right now, just this week I did the Merritt family.
Okay.
And what happens is, it turns out that in bursts their population explodes, and then all of a sudden a bunch of them leave. And they're actually the people that founded the town of Charlton, Massachusetts. But you find all sorts of things going on. Turns out that the Merritts and Tildens got here about 10 years later than almost any historian in town has ever said. So, we're correcting history as we go along at the same time.
Okay.
And what was your background?
I have degrees in chemistry from Colby College, Wesleyan University, and I taught here at Scituate High School for about 20 years.
And you survived?
Yes. I got involved in summers in the antique world, and I had the opportunity to become an antiques writer, so I switched careers to the antiques field.
So not a collector, but a writer?
Well, I was a collector also.
Okay.
I actually I've sold off most of the collection at this point, but I had quite a collection. But what happened is I came down with cancer in 2001, so I went from being 55 and looking 45 and on national television to being 56 and looking 85 and being in a hospital bed. So, but after 2 years of that, I figured, once I was released from the medical program, how do you get back on your feet? And I thought, I'll try and do some teaching at the Senior Center. So I started in at the Marshfield Senior Center, and it took off. And now, I'm from Hingham down to Marshfield.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Teaching constantly. So
Great.
keep
Glad to hear you're a survivor. So.
Well, being compliant with what the doctors wish to have done. That's one of the big issues with, surviving. Cooperate with those doctors,
Yes.
do everything they want.
I would agree with that. So a lot of what you've done, of course, also contributes now to some of the topics that you bring up and are able to offer. What are some of your favorites or?
Well, what happens is currently we're teaching two different programs at the Scituate Senior Center. One is the history program, and then another one is the one on antiques, which is once a month. The talk that lit up everybody in town back in, I think it was September, was the watercolors of Winslow Homer.
I know. Beautiful.
We got a huge turnout for that, really bigger than what our space allowed. But what happened is those people just devoured it, and it's like I've been going for an hour and a half. We don't have enough time to finish it. And keep going.
They are very bad like that. I know, they get them in trouble. Keep going.
Well, when you've got an audience that's approving like that, it's tough to say, no, it's time to stop.
So that's a good point to make, that traditionally we've done these 6-week courses, weekly courses for 6 weeks on a particular topic.
Yes, the next one that we're doing is actually going to be the history of Scituate roads. And, that sounds like, whoa, that's going to be a real technical thing. And but what happens is when you get into the history of the roads, you get into the governmental process for how you handle those roads. And, as soon as Norwell split off from Scituate, there was much less interest in town in maintaining all those roads that went to the west. And then you get this stronger emphasis on Country Way, the north-south movement.
Yep, right.
And another area that's really cool is the interaction between the town and the county, and then the state gets involved with roads. So now they go through a whole redefinition in the 1920s. Well, come 1930s, you have the Depression, and when that happens, then the WPA steps in, and the WPA reorganized. So how do these branches of government work with each other? And they no sooner work out one pattern of cooperation before it's all turned over.
Right.
So it's not just about roads, it's about the history.
But
it's
even
about the town government.
Even about roads, in effect, you're maybe taking a look at what was once an old stagecoach route, right? That became a defined asphalt
and
carryway channel.
And a lot of these roads get rerouted.
Okay.
You think of the road that goes by Lincoln's Mill, and you think, oh yeah, that's just a little side road. That used to be Country Way.
Right.
Okay. Country Way was the big road from Scituate down to Plymouth.
Right.
So when the state comes in the 20s, they start saying, no, you can't go by Lincoln's Mill. That mill isn't going to carry the traffic. So you have to redefine the road. There was no road going past this high school. That doesn't come along until the 30s,
right. Okay.
when you get the state and the WPA involved. And so the road used to end down here at the mill, Tack Pond.
Okay.
There used to be a mill at Tack Pond, and that was the end of that particular road.
It's amazing. It just goes on and on, honestly, and it's enough history and enough relevant sort of current topic that people are just so interested.
Well, what happens is I think that the senior center programs offer a great stimulus, intellectual stimulus, because
that's what we're looking for.
What happens is some of my students are writing books. Some of them may not be writing books, but they're researching their own genealogy.
Sure. Yep.
And so what happens is it stimulates them. They're in class, let's say on Wednesday, but then maybe Thursday they're over to the library, and Friday they're over to the Historical Society. And so I think what's good about this program, it's an hour and a half long, or longer, unfortunately for Linda. It's an hour and a half long, but what happens is it's something that these folks carry on, through the week, because it stimulates them to drive to the location
Right.
and,
Sure.
and see where such and such an event took place, that type of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It becomes personal, and they give them all kinds of ideas for other things that they could do. You've been on field trips, I believe, that have stemmed from some of these
Yes,
topics, right?
yeah, we've had some good time on field trips. We had a great field trip down to Peggotty Beach, and Kathy Lucetti, after we had been out walking for about 3 hours, one of the property owners at Peggotty Beach called us over and said, "You people have been out too long, you got to warm up." So we went inside, we had wine, crackers, cheese, for another 2 or 3 hours.
Shouldn't see a lot of people out there, maybe. Right. Yep.
That's very nice. That's very nice.
Well,
But-
that's what happens with this group. Sometimes a half dozen of us will, go down to Mill Wharf and have a beer after class. So.
Which is okay, yeah. Which is great. But so the 6 month, 6 months could be 6 week sessions, and now the monthly antique presentations, which are on Friday mornings, and you continue to come up with topics for those. The field trips, you actually had done a couple of special talks for us to sort of do some fundraising for us, for the Friends, and those were very interesting. Those were on birds.
Yes, that was So I have done some natural history. Clearly, I'm a scientist, and so one was phenomenally successful. That was on geology. I think maybe a few of these actually have been over at the GAR Hall, I think, too. But one was on the local geology, which just blew people away. And then another one was
The
on
bird carvings.
bird carvings.
Yeah.
And
That was nice.
actually, with the history courses, with the antiques courses, on November 2nd, we've got a program on South Shore bird carvers and
Yeah.
decoys.
Okay.
And then
have
on
that.
December 7th, we have Currier and Ives colored lithographs.
Oh, nice.
And then on January 4th, Andrew Wyeth watercolors. I figured people went so
We did-
crazy
right,
about
right.
Winslow
Sure.
Homer,
Do
I'd
it
come
again.
back with Andrew
Wyeth.
Wyeth, who's
I love
another
that.
pretty good watercolor
Yeah.
artist. So.
Yep, you name them, November 2nd, December 7th, January 4th. So the first Friday of the month is what we're
Yes,
trying to
okay.
schedule
That's what
for
it is,
you.
yeah.
Along with the 6-week session, now you have another one, the Scituate Roads you talked about, starts October 31st, actually.
Yes.
So although our newsletter comes out for November, and we do hope to have it in people's hands a little early, if they are interested, you should call the Senior Center anytime now to sign up, because they do tend to fill up.
And the fee that we charge in Scituate is less than what we're charging in the other towns. Here,
Is it?
Scituate charges $20,
Yes.
and, for example, Marshfield's charging $25.
25 is sort of standard, but, so we do try not to limit if we can, but still, the room only hosts so many, so around 25 people is what we sort of seem to stick to if we can.
And, as you're working towards developing a new senior center, you're going to have the space for more programs.
Yes.
And I think some of the other members of the senior community, or even people that aren't seniors,
Absolutely.
who live in town,
Sure.
might find
Are gonna
you
step
can
up.
have a lot of fun
Yeah.
coming forward and
Yeah.
teaching these programs. I mean, I have a lot of fun doing this.
Yeah,
I get a
yeah.
lot of free desserts.
That's
And,
true. We do try to
you
keep
know,
them
we-
both.
And an
Yeah.
occasional
Yeah.
beer down at the mill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we have a lot of friendship,
Well, it's a lot
and-
of camaraderie. It certainly has come. I'm sure you're sharing information, which is never bad. Everybody's got something to contribute.
and we're following each other's lives
Yes,
too, so we're there offering support for each other and
Yeah.
as we get older, so.
Well, I think there's a huge benefit for people to bring their professional expertise to the table, number one. And number two, it provides more of a bond in the community.
Oh, I think
So-
it's great for bonding in the
Yeah.
community. It's cross-generational.
It is.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
And for anyone, we don't card at the door, certainly, so for anyone who has an interest in the topics that you're providing and mingling and, maybe getting some ideas themselves for something that they might want to do in the end. So age isn't really a factor if someone has an interest.
Yeah.
Love to have them. Absolutely. So if anyone does have a skill or some knowledge that they want to impart to the group, we would love to
Right.
talk about that. All topics, really. Other more expansive lifelong learning programs certainly deal in literature, deal in science, a little bit more, though you have as well. Music, art. We have had wonderful classical music instructor come in, but again, because we can't run simultaneous classes and we only have so many days and times that we can offer this. And we do need more instructors, more facilitators. So if anyone is interested, we'd love to talk to you. But taking Bob's lead, it's been a joy for us to have him. We do sometimes have to shuffle them out because we have something else starting, but really, it's great to see that because we don't get to do that every day.
I tell you, when I say it's an hour and a half class, actually what usually happens is I get there about a half hour early. There are already people
Ready
in
to
there.
go.
And
social
so what happens is there's a wonderful social fabric to all of this.
Yep.
One of the widows of one of the guys I used to teach with, she's up about 90 years old at this point. But, she loves to come there and have that half an hour to talk ahead of time. And then after class, she was there
Dorothy.
for 45 minutes after class
I know, it's wonderful.
the other day as well.
Yep.
So the socialization factor, that's significant.
Absolutely. I appreciate being there, and they appreciate your being there for that amount of time as well. So that's great. And where else do you do this?
Well, the Marshfield Senior Center, the Cohasset Senior Center, and then in Hingham, I'm at the Allerton House Senior Care Facility.
I did not know that. Great. That's nice. That's great.
Well, I actually started out with Welch Care in Marshfield, and then they said, you know what? We got more competition up here at Hingham. Why don't you come up at Hingham? And so, they do work me into some of their promotion stuff.
I assume much of these are different topics that you're sort of juggling at the same time. For the
I
various
tell you, sometimes there are topics that I can carry over. Something like Winslow Homer. I give that talk to yacht clubs and all sorts of people, and it just blows people away. But then there are other topics, like the Coopers that made barrels and firkins and things of that sort. There's a huge interest in that in Hingham, but in the rest of the area, people go, oh?
Right, exactly.
Interesting.
So it's a little confined sort of to
Yeah,
that
so
community.
some talks you just do to the one town. So.
Nice. Well, as Scituate evolves, it's always nice to look back and see where we've been.
Absolutely.
As we look forward to seeing where we're going.
And what we're doing is presenting an accurate view of, a lot of what's been written about local history has a very personal point of view, but not necessarily
A truthful?
Yeah.
well, it's the way people want their history to be recalled.
Right.
And what I do is by going back to always those primary sources, the census figures and things of that sort, I find a lot of corrections to make.
Funny. Oh, that's good. That's great.
So,
Yeah.
Bob, I'm curious, are you, you clearly have some diverse interests. Are you researching new topics, or are these just all areas that you're already interested in anyways?
Yeah.
I tell you, what happens is these are things I have an interest in to begin with, but in terms of researching, I do quite an exhaustive amount of research.
So once you define your topic, then you drill down.
That's correct.
But
And-
you've got multiple topics.
But what happens is, like, the typical researcher, if they're doing census, they'll look up the census, for Henry Merritt or a single individual. what I've done is I've got the entire census for the entire town, so I can immediately tell you who the person's neighbors were. You know, I can look up, you know, what their wives and in-laws and all of
Yeah.
that have been involved with.
Yeah.
And that helps to explain why some families that have been away from town for 2 or 3 generations will come back.
Yeah.
You know, there's a farm that's become available that somebody in the family died, nobody else in the family's there to inherit it. Oh, go back
And somebody
to the
came
family
back.
farm.
Yeah, and picked it
Yeah,
up.
So it's amazing what you can discover burrowing down.
So
through
how
this
much time do you put into research topics before you make a presentation?
Quite a bit. And what happens is,
I mean, it sounds like you're busy making presentations. And so how much time do you have
Yeah.
to make
Yeah.
all this
well,
prep?
I tell you, for example, the library here in town has taken all the town reports and put those online. And so that made it a good deal easier for me to just download those. Now I've digitally got all of the town reports
Okay.
for the town going back to about the time of the Civil War.
And when you say a town report, is that just sort of an annual report?
Yeah, the
Okay.
annual reports.
Okay.
But those things, they're lush with material, and every one of them has 2 or 3 surprises in there that you know, like taking care of cutting down all of the elm trees on the highway. You know, the elm disease comes in the 30s, and hey, now you got to make that expense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and the addition of power shovels as opposed to the man
Right.
one shovel
Sure.
full at a time. You know, these things all transform, and it actually reduces the cost of operating town government. But when I learn these things, then what I learn, let's say in Cohasset, oftentimes I can carry that across to Scituate
Sure.
or to Marshfield. And when it comes to the operation of the resort hotels,
Yeah.
what I learn in Hingham then kicks over to Hull, kicks over to
Cohasset and
Cohasset,
Scituate.
and then in a different version comes to Scituate, and yet a different version comes to Marshfield. But, you know, one of the things people like is that I can give you that contrast
Yes.
between what was different between
Yeah.
the whole hotel in Hummerock
Right.
and the Cliff Hotel,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they were substantially different institutions with very different clientele.
Wow.
But also nice to link with memories, and people really have a connection with so much of the history from their own personal viewpoints, and you know, you touch on that.
They like seeing what happened, you know, what were their
Yeah,
grandparents and
Yeah, how they-
great-grandparents
yeah, right.
involved, you know, that type of thing. The whole Irish community that came here in the 1850s and 1860s, you know, that's a fascinating thing, and they're coming from this small area on the North Irish coast. But then if you take the people, the men of Kent, they came from a town called Tenterton in Kent County, England. So
England.
when they say men of Kent, it's not the whole, you know, county of Kent. It's actually just one town.
Right.
So it's like all their neighbors
Yeah.
just sort of, they got fed up with the system and they all came over here. So,
Well, it is wonderful. I mean, lifelong learning has really caught on for our demographic, our sort of retired population, but again, it doesn't have to be confined to that. Personally, I can't wait. I've always loved going to school and classes and learning, maybe without the homework, so this really is ideal. And also, part of the impetus is to have it in the community so that you're not having to travel to Boston necessarily or
Right.
take on more or something that Dorothy could not do. So providing it closer to home is really just
and
so,
it's
so
tapered to the community. I'm not teaching about Marshfield and Scituate. I'm
Right.
teaching about
Right.
Scituate and Scituate.
Though there are connections, and that's also nice to sort of expand understanding beyond the borders. That's good too. That's
Yeah.
great. You bring that specialty, but that is wonderful. So we are grateful for you, and,
Thank
and
you.
hope it continues, and hope we maybe add to it, which would be great as well, especially as we expand our space to be able to provide
That's the
more.
key.
That is the key.
Bigger space, you can have 10 programs
add.
where right now
That's
you've
the
got
hope.
one.
Bob, I think it's terrific that you're bringing your teaching acumen overlaid against
Yes.
interest in history, interest in a number of other topics,
Yeah.
and enabling people to get
Yeah.
stimulated. And and it also brings, we said earlier, it brings people together in a community bonding sort of a way. So it's wonderful.
It's a great feeling. I enjoy it, and I hope other people get involved in the
Yes.
teaching process when space becomes
Yeah,
available.
I would throw
Yeah,
that out
right.
to people. I think
Right.
there might be people out there that have something that they want to bring to the table. You ought to.
Yeah. And in
Contact
terms of
Linda.
the participants even, I mean, there are those that continually come back, but there's always some new people that come in. So again, it just adds a little more dimension to it often when you are bringing your new topics, new people meeting, people who
Yeah,
have
when you call it
come.
my new topics, that's kind of a joke,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
what happens is there are always this reservoir of topics
Yes,
that are coming
yes.
out of the student group.
Yes.
And, I have to
Right.
sort of say,
Filter
well,
through.
out of the 12 that you've suggested, why
Right,
don't we
right.
do
Yeah.
the history of
Right.
Scituate roads?
Right,
Yeah.
and then he goes ahead and
You know,
creates.
Yeah.
so.
But it is nice.
I think
you
that's
really-
great.
yep, You come up with the new one-time, the single monthly presentations, I think will also be a nice addition.
That's
Yes,
terrific.
those,
Yeah.
I've been doing that for 15 years down in Marshfield, and so, I've got a wealth of programs that I've worked
That's
on.
good.
And what I'm able to do for Scituate is to present sort of the cream of the crop of those programs,
Great.
so.
Well, that is wonderful.
wonderful.
We thank him, yeah.
Appreciate you
And
bringing
certainly,
this
in
to the
addition to
table.
Bob,
you.
we have many people who are providing us with their expertise or help in leading programs. So, we'll periodically bring some of them on as well. But when you look at the newsletter, to just realize how many people are giving their time and some of their backgrounds or skills to our participants is great. It's great. So
And there
we
may
have
be
a lot.
more out there, so
Do have a lot to offer, and our new newsletter is online. So for those that don't want to wait for it to come in the mail, which again hopefully is enough before November 1st to give people time to sign up for things in November.
I saw it a
But
couple of
still,
days ago.
Yeah.
I know it's out there.
ourseniorcenter.com, and then you can look up Scituate. So that's almost immediately as it goes to the printer. But also when we get it, we pop it online on the town website as well, on the Council on Aging page. But give us a call if you have any questions about that as well. And I can, all right, if I make an announcement about an event coming up?
You have my permission, yes.
Can I do that? So, really excited. The word about this is obviously starting to come out, but just last week we finally got confirmation that the Navy Band Northeast out of Newport, Rhode Island, will be coming here to perform at Scituate High School at the Performing Arts Center on Thursday evening, November 8th. It is a free concert. They are very selective. They go into communities, these professional musicians who are active military, active Navy, but this is their role for the military at this time anyway. And the Pops Ensemble is their largest ensemble with just about 30 musicians. Now we are collaborating, the Senior Center, the Council on Aging, with the school music programs as well, getting help from Mr. Lassard, who is the middle school music and band director. But I have seen him, and he has brought students to other performances in other towns where I have gone as well. So they're just so impressive. I've had experience, he had experience, so I knew this was something we would both want to see happen. So we've been waiting. It's been a few months, really, that we've been trying to pull them in. And they get so many requests
Sure.
that they weigh them, obviously, to see what is the best choice for them. And they do come a long way. But our venue, number one, and the number of people we can seat, and the collaboration, and the musicians are even going to work with the school music students during the day. Some of them will come in later. But anyway, I can't say enough about this event, so we are very happy. It is certainly a Veterans Day tribute, as it's happening right before Veterans Day on November 8th, so we will certainly reach out and make sure those organizations know. It is free, but it is ticketed. So we would like to be, we'd like people to have tickets and use those tickets, because we want to guarantee the number of people coming as well for the performance. So November 8th, Thursday evening, called the Senior Center with questions. Tickets will be at the Senior Center at the Town Library.
7 o'clock?
7 p.m., thank
7
you.
o'clock?
7 p.m. for the performance, yes. They'll be, like I said, working with the students during the day, having a dinner break, and then having a performance.
High School Performing Arts Center, 7 o'clock, Thursday, November 8th. Free.
Free, yes.
Navy Band.
Awesome.
With
And
middle
awesome.
school, yeah.
Well, middle and high school.
Middle and high school.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So students, families, we hope it is an intergenerational tribute to our veterans, but as well just to the performing arts, to the musicians, because they are wonderful. So, very excited about that. Also, maybe a quick Senior Center update, if that's okay.
If there is one.
No, there is, well, I mean, there is one. Well, just still working in earnest with the architect at this point on interior design layout as well as exterior design look. And once we had determined placement, which has been done more or less on the footprint of where the current Gate School or the old Gate School is, taking down the C wing, which is where we're proposing the parking area, the B wing, which is the footprint for the senior center, the A wing, which will come down, but there is proposed to be a bit of a walking connector between the senior center building and the recreation building, housing the gymnasium, which will get an upgrade, and their program space will be worked into that building as well. Another supplemental parking area behind that,
Right.
for recreation or spillover for the senior center when we need it, as well as for weekends when there's sporting events going on in the soccer field or the baseball field or the historical buildings which remain, as well as the green area in the front for the most part and trees that are there now. So much of this is really just being placed within an existing area minus the buildings that exist now, which the architect is really looking at trying to create that facade so that it is pleasing to the community and maybe harkens a little bit to the facade that exists now for the Gates School. And our next Public Building Commission meeting is October 23rd, next week.
Right.
Where it will be presented, at least as far as he's come. So that's
Great.
that. All right, anything else?
That's great. No.
So good, we appreciate, Bob, your being here.
Thank you.
It's
I
fun.
enjoyed it.
So did we, thank you. Yep.
Thank
So
And
look
so
forward
you want
to
to catch a Bob
Yeah,
class?
yeah, yeah.
Call the senior center, right?
the senior
That's
center
it.
coming up, actually next, No.
October 31st is the next,
and then November 2nd
November 2nd is the
are
next
the next
antique
ones.
talk.
All right,
Yeah.
thank you for joining us.